So I've been asking myself, I've been looking at a couple of past games that I played, explored some Tactica, looking at the different warbands and the missions, and I find myself asking for Godtear, tabletop immortality, do I want first turn? Is it better to give up first turn for positioning? And of course, modified slightly by the warbands that you're taking. And this was an interesting analysis. I'm still not 100% sure, but we're going to loop back and lay the foundation of how Godtear, to build the point or refute the point, how Godtear is different than other war games, other skirmish games. A lot of really, really unique features, about 5 or 6 unique features that really set this game apart from other systems. The one we're going to be exploring is the ranking. Many skirmish games or war games will have you playing X number of turns or have a mission objective. And then at the end, whoever occupies a certain space or has the most mission points wins. You don't always earn points turn by turn like you do in Godtear. So what this leaves you vulnerable in other systems, and this is one of the ways to build a list in some of these systems, build a list that early on decimates your opponent to the point that they lose models, they're removed, they lose units, they can't really resist you. Or if you get lucky, half Tactica, half lucky the first couple of rounds, and the other warband is really pushed back, we have this situation where we're halfway through playing the game and I'm going to play it out, but I can't win. Tactically, I'm at a point where I can't win, I can't go any further. Godtear awards you points turn by turn, and those points increase towards the mid game and then decrease towards the end of the game. And when you get to a maximum points, you win. So what this means is you can lose the first turn and still come back. You can lose the second turn and still come back. It becomes a little bit more challenging. You can have a tie moving into the end game, and those last rounds become very, very important. You're never truly knocked out. Now, of course, if you take an early lead, it is a little bit more challenging for the other player to catch up, but it's possible. It's possible. So this got me to thinking, turn 1, round 1, game 1, you earn 1 point for winning. Positioning, of course, is key in any type of war game, especially a skirmish game. Godtear positioning is very important. You can also try to improve your positioning if you're a little bit behind. The way the tiers, literally the salty tiers of the gods, the way they manipulate, the way they grow, the way you can add tiers, take away tiers, generate tiers based on the warband. So even if you don't have a favorable position, again, other war games you'd be knocked out. But in Godtear, you still have something to work with. But that turn 1 of getting into position, possibly building a wall with your followers, your minions, your support warbands to block off certain tiers, to block off certain objectives, getting certain champions to a side of the table to start farming stuff or generating stuff, putting yourself in a tanky type position where you have an advantage turn 2, turn 3, and onward. There's also the challenge, if we look at the life mission, and life is a great introductory mission, I'm going to simplify it a little bit. Essentially, you got a pile of tiers in the center of the board, and it's king of the hill. Now, there's other ways to generate tiers, and they radiate out, but there are some warbands that are not as fast as others. Of course, they have other attributes. The dwarves, they're not as fast, but they have better armor, they have more life, and it's a give and take. So just because you don't have a ton of speed doesn't mean you don't have advantages in other areas. But what I was noticing in playing some of the slower warbands or some of the more supportive warbands and champions and followers was I was kind of locked in the old mindset of various 40K skirmish games where I'm like, I got to get up there. I got to dominate the center. And even if I'm slow, I got to get up there. And then I realized with some of these other greens and blues in Godtear, I'm not going to get up there first turn necessarily in a dominant position. And not that I'm going to give away first turn, but if I can't do it and execute it well, trying to do it, I lose both. I'm not getting that premier position if I'm going to be aggressive turn 1, and I haven't set myself up for turn 2, being more defensive, things from that nature. So looking and saying, If I don't go first, I have the advantage of the first activation phase, knowing of where you are. The way Godtear works is, let's say you go first. You move all of your units, warbands, champions, minions. You move everybody, I move everybody. Then we move to the clash phase, and we cycle back and forth, and we trade off 1-to-1 back and forth. So it's kind of a hybrid system of you go, I go in the beginning, a traditional war game, but then it bypasses those limitations by being an alternating activation system and possibly an interrupt system, depending on the warbands. So from that perspective, if I let you go first turn one, then I get to kind of see the flow of the game. I get to kind of see where you're going to go. And being a tight skirmish game, yeah, there's outflanks. Yeah, there's surprises. Yeah, there's things you can do for misdirection, but not always. Things tend to be a little bit more direct and a little bit more action-packed. Is it an advantage to gain that and give up 1 point? Because again, turn one is only worth 1 point. Counter to that, well, look, 1 point's 1 point. I mean, I do go in often and say I'm going to try and get every single point, at the very least, knowing that I can't knock my opponent out completely. If I can gain a nice little lead, then that gives me a cushion if I screw up tactically or I miss something or I make a mistake or the dice swing against me, although usually it's not the dice swinging against me. It's more of a mistake on my part, tactically, something I missed or a combo that I didn't quite get to pull off. But this is the question that I'm asking myself now and exploring. Yes, there are advantages to taking turn one. But in Godtear, there are also advantages in terms of positioning and options where maybe I don't take turn one. Maybe I don't go first and get the superior position on paper or on the tabletop. A very, very unique, and I find myself now being maybe a year in of playing and analyzing, or maybe 8 months, 12 months, analyzing and really playing Godtear. I'm noticing, wow, there is a lot of layers. There are a lot of layers to this game.